But hours had passed as she waited for him, as she went through the motions of celebrating the day, all the while wondering where he was. And finally, when the day passed, and then another and another, with no contact from him, not even a word, she'd realized all of her worst fears had come true. By the time he eventually came trudging up her driveway, head hung and shoulders hunched, despair in every step, she'd already figured it out. She might not be a wolf. She might not be a shifter. But she'd been raised here among them, and she knew how things worked. She and Michael weren't fated, could never be mated, and so, despite the fact that they'd loved one another for years, they couldn't be together. It would be cheating for Michael to be with her. He hadn't met his fated mate yet. He didn't know who she was or even where she was. He didn't know when he would meet her or even if he ever would. But he'd said it would feel like cheating to be with her knowing someone else out there was meant to be his. She'd agreed. What else was she supposed to do? Beg him to choose her over a woman that was merely a figment of his imagination at this point? Pray that even if that woman did one day show up, that he would be able to ignore his very nature and send her away? Of course not. So she'd done the only thing she could. She'd clung to her pride. She'd ignored the hurt and the loneliness. She'd sworn that she was okay being just friends, and most days that didn't feel like a lie. For 4 years, she'd controlled her feelings, her emotions, and her every action when it came to her best friend. She thought she'd learned to accept what she had no control over. She thought, at the very least, if she couldn't make her feelings for him go away, that she could hide them deep down where they would never again see the light of day. On good days, she could paste on a smile and ignore the traitorous thump of her heart whenever he was in the same room. But then, on days like today when she had to watch him turn his charm and smile on every new female that came sniffing around, hoping to be the woman the pack alpha mated, she felt like the liar she really was. She felt human. Plain and boring and normal. Worse, whenever she felt like this, she was reminded of just how impossible it would have been for Michael to be fated to a woman like her in the first place. She wasn't like him. She wasn't a shifter. She wasn't a wolf. She definitely wasn't royalty like he was amongst the pack. She was nothing more than a regular girl that had been thrust into the supernatural world when she found out her adoptive parents were werewolves. She was a rarity, sure. A human allowed into the inner circle. But the truth was, she would always be an outsider. There were other humans in Noir, Louisiana. Humans that had been wards or protectors of the pack for generations. Humans that had been mated with wolves and become part of the pack through that bond, bringing family in with them. There were even a handful of others like her, human children that had been taken in by pack elders through adoption at an early age. Her mother had suffered a car accident when she was young. Even mated, she couldn't conceive, so they'd adopted Zoey. They'd given her a family. They'd given her a home. They'd given her love and support and everything that a young girl could want or need. And somehow, without Michael, it didn't feel like enough. God, she was a brat for even thinking that. Her parents had given her a life she'd never have dreamed of when she was in the foster system, being bounced from house to house, losing touch with her biological siblings because they were separated. Her entire world had been pain and darkness back then, and they'd taken her away from that. They'd brought her into this amazing world with supernatural creatures that were beautiful and deadly, savage and graceful. She wasn't walking away, giving up her life here, just because the thought of Michael finding his mate and being forced to watch them live out their happily ever after made her physically ill. She'd made friends here, good friends, and she'd built her business here. She'd built her life here. She could find someone here someday.